This as a human press, a torture device.
Torture, Syrian-American Obada Mosaic says he experienced firsthand.
They should be accountable for what they did in Syria.
The 34-year-old is suing the Syrian government and officials in the Assad regime, alleging in part he was detained and tortured and forced to falsely confess to crimes. Mosaic was born in the United States and, at the age of 4, moved to Syria, his parents' homeland. He says his first arrest was in 2011, a time of large-scale pro-democracy protests. Mosaic describes the facility's conditions as inhumane.
We have like three times to go to the bathroom, and each time we have only 30 seconds. There is no shower, there is not enough foods.
Mosaic alleges he was held for over a month. After his release, fearing for his safety, he left Syria.
And I went to Michigan, where my uncles are living. I stayed there for like 4 months. I feel like I'm secure and I can go back.
But when he did return, Mosaic says he was detained again and systematically beaten, whipped, and threatened with electrocution, according to the lawsuit. He recounted some of his experiences.
One of the soldiers at the airport asked me why you are transferred. Before I complete my words, he tried to kill me. He put his 2 hands on my neck and he pushed me to the wall, trying to hang me. And then they pushed me down and they stripped me naked. And while they are doing that, they hit me with the pipe, PVC pipe. I can remember one of the detainees was getting punished a lot, and I can hear all the details of this punishment and this torture.
The complaint was initially filed in 2022 with help from the Center for Justice and Accountability, or CJA, a human rights organization. It now includes the testimonies of more than 30 other alleged former detainees. The federal suit, filed under the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, allows American nationals to sue designated state sponsors of terrorism for torture. The Syrian government has not yet responded, according to CJA. And now, with Syria's government in flux, CJA says keeping a record of the atrocities is more important than ever.
We hope that the documentation that we provide can be helpful not just for this case, but for other cases, for other litigation that might be going on in Europe, or now potentially in Syria itself.
As the case is considered in the United States, in Syria, thousands of families continue searching for the fate of their loved ones. Some detained, others tortured, many still missing. Obada Mosaic ultimately escaped Assad's regime, but still awaits news about his missing relatives. The memories of his detention still close.
There's like hundreds of thousands of mothers they couldn't see beloved ones until now. And when I saw my mom, when I released, I was crying. So Syria liberation is not enough. We need justice for all of them.
And it's not just Obada Mosaic seeking justice under that Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. The family of Syrian-born American psychotherapist Majid Kamalmaz is suing the Syrian government under that same law. He disappeared while in Syria. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken recognized Majid's death in June. His family says he was traveling to the region to provide medical services. His daughter telling me yesterday his absence has been very traumatic for all of us, and that she, like Obada Mosaic, wants the Syrian government and the Assad regime held accountable.
That seems to be a common theme right now. So many people with these terrible stories.
Absolutely. Certainly a threat and a good reminder that stories that are happening abroad still very much have implications right here at home. Many of these Syrian Americans, which is how they're able to file under that law.
Yeah, and they're our neighbors now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you, Zinkley, for that reporting.
Of course.
Well, let's switch gears completely. There is a cuddly new creature taking over the holiday shopping season this year. We're talking about the world's largest rodent, the capybara. Capybara merch and stuffed animals are soaring in popularity, not just with the kids. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung takes a look at what's driving the trend.
They're some of the biggest little critters on Earth.
Rodents of unusual size? I don't think they exist.
And far less scary than the ones made famous in The Princess Bride. We're talking capybaras, hailing from South America, the largest rodent in the world. and can grow to more than 4 feet long. And they're seemingly at the top of everyone's Christmas list this year, fueled by social media hype from zoo trips around the world.
Come with me to the capybara onsen in Japan.
To a viral song. Even embraced by Disney in the hit kids movie Encanto, in just a passing role.
Against the Syrian government and the Assad
playing into this in any way, shape, or form?
Well, I mean, look, I think German politics doing well. Like many
years.
Yeah, there's a bit of political uncertainty there. But I think, look, at the moment, we're in the early stages of what is clearly a horrific attack. We know very little, next to nothing, about the driver of that car. And I think once we get more details about that, then I guess, you know, these types of things might become clearer. And I think, look, you know, it is an interesting point, because in major European cities, you know, like in major American cities, there are a lot of bollards these days blocking off potential car ramming attacks. You know, Paris, Berlin, but, you know, Magdeburg is clearly a much smaller city. I think I'm right in thinking the population is about 250,000. It's not a very, very big city. So, you know, I think, again, it will be interesting to see whether or not, you know, how the sort of geography is around that Christmas market, and whether or not whoever carried this out saw this as a potentially softer target than going for a Christmas market in a bigger city.
And apparently the German Interior Minister had said just late last month there were no concrete indications of a danger to Christmas markets this year, but it's wise to be vigilant. Brad, I guess in situations like this, we even talk about it here in the States every year as we approach. After 9/11, it seems, every time we approach a big event like a parade or a New Year's celebration, there are always the concerns, always the warnings. We're always told to remain vigilant. And overseas, as we've seen various attacks in Christmas markets like this, like the one that Tom mentioned back in 2016 at that Christmas market as well. It's just so hard to know and tell. And I mean, how do you even, knowing the history of these types of attacks and just the life that the world that we live in now, is there really any way to protect these type of large events when, like we even heard the German Interior Minister said, no concrete indications of danger, but, you know, it's always wise to be vigilant?
Well, I think the reality is that, as I mentioned earlier, these markets are just vulnerable, obviously, to all sorts of attacks, whether it be with weapons or with cars. And this really goes, in my view, to education, to the folks in whatever their version is of the Department of Justice in Germany, getting the word out across the country that no matter how small or large a gathering you have outside that's vulnerable to potential attack either by car or weapons or explosives, that you need to figure out some way to block it off. And because it is one of those things that people who want to commit these type of attacks, if in fact this isn't a terrorist attack, are going to look for soft targets. You know, trying this in New York City, in Munich, in any large city is a bigger challenge because they have more manpower, more equipment, etc. But that still doesn't matter. I mean, obviously a city of 250,000 have dump trucks, they have fire trucks, they have things they literally can put across a road with concrete barriers that aren't that expensive. And I think that's the reality of where we are today. You just can't lower your guard. You have to be vigilant no matter what size city you might be in.
And Tom, I'm seeing here that just in Berlin alone, more than 100 markets, Christmas markets, opened up late last month. Clearly, we know this is it's a beautiful cultural tradition in certain parts of Europe, in particular Germany. So I'm just wondering, and I know this story is just unfolding, and you're getting information, slowly trickling in. But just with all these other markets that have opened up, do you see security being looked at differently now in light of what we've seen happen here?
I was in a Christmas market in Gdansk in northern Poland just earlier this week. It didn't appear to be massively protected. I think this attack will send ripples across Europe. I think all authorities in almost all countries will be looking at what's happened tonight, and I guess it will sadly change the mood a little bit, and also, lead to more measures, you'd hope, and expect, I think. I think this is clearly a horrific attack. I mean, I think, just to emphasize people, we're not showing the full CCTV because it's just too graphic, and it potentially shows the moment of death for people. We haven't had deaths confirmed, but German media are reporting a number of deaths and scores of injured. And if you look at the CCTV, if you watch it in its entirety, I mean, it's very hard to watch, but it clearly shows the car absolutely ploughing at real speed into a massive crowd. And sadly, victims, run down, many victims run down. So I think, we're still waiting to hear from the German authorities and the police about what exactly has happened, whether they can confirm that the driver has been arrested at the scene, whether the driver is in a fit state to talk, I think is the critical thing, if he or she has been arrested, and then clearly the motive, which at the moment is just not clear. Kira?
All right, looks like Aaron Katursky here stateside, Tom, was able to get some information. What are your sources telling you about the suspect and those that are reported killed now, Aaron?
Kira, we should make clear, this is information coming from U.S.-based law enforcement sources, but they tell ABC News that a suspect is indeed in custody, arrested at the scene at the market there in Germany. The motivation is unclear at this time, according to the sources. They also put the number of injured at approximately 60 injured, along with several fatalities. That's the information from U.S.-based law enforcement sources to ABC News. A suspect in custody, motivation unclear at this time, about 60 roughly injured, and several fatalities, Kira.
Brad, now that we're learning, approximately 60 people injured here. Definitely people have been killed. A suspect is arrested. We know in an event like this, and we learned after 9/11, communication is everything across the pond and here in the U.S., and it looks like law enforcement here communicating with those overseas. This is going to be a coordinated effort, no doubt, Brad.
Yes, and one of the keys, if this is a terrorist act and they have a person in custody, is what else is potentially planned? Because if he or she is part of some group, are there other markets that are scheduled to be attacked? And, because it's really, sadly, Kara, such an easy thing to do if you have access, if roads aren't blocked. And so that's going to be the real key is it contained as we know it, or does it go elsewhere? Because that's really an important thing to sort out, in particular, I think, in Europe.
Your thoughts, Aaron?
Well, I think it's been a concern of certainly U.S. law enforcement agencies, vehicle ramming attacks for a number of years, especially as they were ascribed a terrorist-type motive. And here, the motivation is not clear. We know that, according to Der Spiegel, some reliable German sources, that it probably was an attack, but the authorities, at least stateside, have not confirmed any particular motivation. But vehicle ramming, is insidious, and we've seen it on the domestic side. We've seen it at a Christmas parade in Wisconsin. We've seen it overseas in places like Nice, and it has necessitated, when law enforcement authorities are planning for mass gathering events like parades, like markets, like the big New Year's Eve celebration in Times Square. It necessitates the use of vehicles to block intersections to make sure that a car cannot get up to speed such that it could ram into a group of people. So this remains very much on the minds of American law enforcement officials when they're planning for these types of attacks. But these markets, certainly in Germany and even here in New York City and around the country, are not especially heavily guarded.
And apparently German press now is reporting that explosives were in the car. We have not confirmed that, but German press is now not only talking about approximately 60 people injured and that people were killed, but also that suspect has been arrested and that explosives were found in the car. We'll try and confirm that, but clearly the information is coming in quickly, and it takes a while for us, of course, to confirm what Germany is reporting. But I know, Tom, you wanted to add to what Aaron was saying.
Well, I just wanted to say that, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, what Aaron is getting from US sources tallies exactly more or less with what German media are reporting. I mean, Bild, a German newspaper, is reporting 60 to 80 injured, and they're saying, they were saying a short while ago 12 dead. But, you know, clearly, looking at the video and the way it plows into, you know, such a high number of people at speed, clearly, you know, many people you'd imagine would be in a serious condition, or there would be some serious injuries. I don't think we're talking about light injuries when we talk about 60 or so people injured. I mean, I think that's just a fair conclusion from that video, sadly. So, I think we're just going to have to watch in the coming hours, and unfortunately the sort of death toll, which we can't confirm at this stage. I mean, Aaron is hearing from US sources, as he said, you know, a number of deaths, but it is possible that the figures that the German media are reporting could rise. I mean, it looks like a horrific attack, and that detail, again, not confirmed from German media, which you just mentioned, Kira. If there were explosives in the car, I mean, again, that's another shocking and critical detail which is emerging from this attack. And just to remind people, I mean, this is Magdeburg, so it's a city in central northern Germany. It's about, you know, not a huge distance west of Berlin. It's a city of sort of 250,000 people, so we're not talking about one of Germany's biggest cities, but, you know, the Christmas market, earlier this evening, a car ploughing at huge speed into that market, going down one of the kind of walkways where you can see either side those kind of cabin-like shops which we see in Christmas markets all across Europe at this time of year, and a very, very large number of people in the path of that vehicle as it just plows through them. Absolutely horrific.
And German press had reported moments ago that Magdeburg's University Hospital said that it was taking care of 10 to 20 patients, but was preparing for more. That's what was reported in German press. Now we are able to confirm that, and this is through a local hospital official, that we were able to speak to, that several people with serious injuries have arrived there at the local hospital. They are being treated. Some of the people were airlifted to the hospital. The hospital is expecting more injuries, and the ICU is already in action and ready to step in as well. So maybe Tom, now considering that we have these new numbers of the amount of injured, the amount that have been transported to Magdeburg's University Hospital, and it looks like, I mean, the response was swift, from ambulances to now confirming that there were air assets as well that could get in to the scene and get folks to the hospital. Tom.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, I think it speaks to the gravity of the injuries. I think it also speaks to the gravity of the incident that some casualties have been airlifted to hospital. You know, we know that if people in a very serious condition are airlifted to hospital, it can give them a much higher chance of hopefully surviving and being treated in an immediate way with the right type of treatment. If they can get to a major hospital that has the right equipment and facilities and staff. So I think that speaks to just the scale of this attack. We've had the first comment just a short while ago from Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor. He has effectively, said that the reports coming out of Magdeburg tonight are really awful, and he has said his thoughts are with the families and the victims families, and also the people of Magdeburg at this terrible time.
And apparently, Aaron, we are able to confirm that authorities here stateside are now looking in to see if any U.S. citizens were hurt in this attack. Is that right, Aaron?
That's what we understand, and that's common, Kira. One of the things that U.S. officials who are based in Germany as consular officials will do is try to determine whether any American citizens, people who live here, were somehow hurt in the attack, provide any assistance they can. The early read from law enforcement sources that I'm talking to is that there were not, that they know of at the moment, any Americans that were killed or injured in Germany because of this vehicle ramming, but they are still going to do an assessment. And of course, as more casualties come to local hospitals, American consular officials will be interested in the nationalities too, just to see if they can provide any assistance, Kira.
All right, just to bring our viewers up to date, gentlemen, stand by. If you are just tuning in, we'll take you straight to the pictures that we've been getting in by the moment here out of the eastern part of Germany. Possibly 60 injuries, 60 to 80 people injured after a car plowed into a Christmas market here in a very idyllic part of Magdeburg, Germany. It's just west of Berlin. There were a large number of people here going through the Christmas markets, shopping, spending time with friends and loved ones. There had been warnings about a month ago from the Interior Minister that there were no indications of danger to the Christmas markets this year, but to always be vigilant. It would be wise to be vigilant. And now, sadly, we are seeing some type of attack on a Christmas market in the eastern part of Germany at a very popular Christmas market that has begun now during the holidays. We do know that there were people airlifted to the local hospital. We can report that there were fatalities, dozens of injuries we now know. And also, according to Aaron, as we just heard, the U.S. Now having discussions about big events here in the United States as we gather for the holidays. This is our life since 9/11 in particular, where we have witnessed a